Marvel Studios Eternals is now officially streaming on Disney Plus, and that means that I have now finally watched this movie. Now, you may be wondering, why am I doing a review on it at this point? It's the same reason, when I finally got to watch Shang-Chi when that came out on Disney Plus, why didn't I do a review on that? Or when I got to see Venom Let There Be Carnage, why did I not do a review for those movies, but I am doing a video on Eternals? Well, because with those movies, I mean, first of all, just in general, it's months after the movie comes out, so what's the point of doing a review? Most people have already seen it, plus the videos would probably get no views, and I understand it's probably going to be the same here, but I just want to talk about this. I want to talk about Eternals, because I have a lot to say about this movie, because going into this, I wasn't expecting much. After hearing all the terrible reviews, seeing the really, really bad Rotten Tomatoes score, and just all these bad things people were saying about this movie, I didn't really expect much from it. And that's actually probably one of the reasons I loved it so much, is because I had such low expectations that my expectations were just blown out of the water. Because I'll be honest, I actually love this movie. And while I do understand some of the things that people don't like about this movie, a lot of those things that people critique about Eternals are things I actually do like, and I can actually defend in some ways as well. So yeah, I just want to talk about this. I want to talk about Marvel Studios Eternals because I loved it. I really enjoyed this movie. I really had a good time. And before we get too much into this, I do want to give, of course, a quick spoiler warning. If you're like me and still haven't seen the movie at this point, except obviously I have now, but if you still haven't seen it yet, then spoiler warning, because we're talking spoilers here about Marvel Studios Eternals, which came out all the way back in November of 2021. So yeah, let's talk about Eternals, because I really enjoyed this. I loved just the mythology of the Eternals in this. This is so different from anything else we've gotten in the MCU before. Of course, it's directed by Oscar winner Chloe Zhao, and it's just so different, and that's one of the things I love about it. That's one of the things that I think is kind of convoluting when it comes to MCU fans, is because people are always critiquing the MCU for saying oh, every movie is the same, as the same formula, but then whenever they do try something new, people don't like it, like with this Eternals movie, and some people with WandaVision and stuff like that, they don't like it. It's all right, that's whatever. So but I do like it. I do like this new vibe for the MCU, because this movie didn't, I'll be honest, it didn't really even feel like Marvel, but that's one of the things I like about it, because it's so different and just felt more just be given the level of these characters and their powers, more godlike. Obviously, it's on a whole another level, and obviously that makes the characters kind of less relatable, but at the same time you do have those human elements to the characters. And I just want to talk about these characters, because that is another big thing that I've seen a lot of people critique with this movie, is that there's too many characters. Sure, they are introducing 10 new characters to the MCU. That is a lot, and I'll be honest, a lot of them are underdeveloped, but at the same time I do feel like each character at least gets their own little arc in this movie, and I feel is developed enough as much as they can in this movie, because this movie is almost 3 hours. I feel like they do a lot in this movie and do the best they can within this time restraint, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, characters like Ikaris, his turn to the bad side, what did kind of come out of nowhere, but at the same time I loved it. He was a great character in this movie. Plus, he's basically a Superman-like character. So just seeing the whole Eternals team fighting him at the end was great. Seeing that. Sersi was another one that, I mean, she didn't really get the most development, but she was kind of the main character of the story. So you could really relate to her character. Plus, she was in a love triangle with her, Ikaris, and Dane. Dane is another character. There wasn't really much in the movie, but I still really love Kit Harington, the role. I think he was great. Kingo, hilarious. I absolutely love Kumail Nanjiani with the whole Bollywood thing and how he's famous, and his cameraman, his valet, Karun. He's honestly one of the best characters in this movie. I mean, he's the MVP right here. Karun, love that guy. But it was weird that Kingo kind of just left halfway through the movie. That was one thing I thought was a little weird. But then you've got other characters in here let's see, let's talk about Druig. Oh, Druig. I love Druig in this movie. He honestly might be my favorite character, because this is a character going into this I thought would be a more villainous character, but you see things from his perspective and it's actually kind of the opposite. He wants to he wants to interfere to save people from killing each other and save them from genocide and all this stuff. And like, sure is kind of like, well, very controlling and egotistic to be literally having his own little cult of people that he's controlling their lives. That is kind of a bad thing, but at the same time, you can see his perspective, you can see where it's coming from, and his relationship with Makari, which was something I was not all expecting, but I loved it because Makari was another great character here. Of course, she is deaf, but even without speaking and using words in this movie was still able to convey so much emotion. I mean, like every time you look at her, you just see that smile on her face, and it just makes me so happy. It just makes me feel good. I loved her character in this movie. We also got Phastos, the first main LGBT character in the MCU, so that's great, of course, for representation and stuff. His powers were a little less on the point. Like I get he's the tech guy, but it was a little confusing. You know, for the most part, like a lot of these characters, like their powers were a little confusing at times. We've got Thena in here as well, played by Angelina Jolie. She was a character that I wasn't the biggest fan of. She is definitely kind of a Wonder Woman-like character, and she was, of course, suffering from the memory loss / regaining thing in this movie, which I thought was an interesting story I wasn't expecting. And you have her relationship with Gilgamesh, which Gilgamesh is definitely a character I'm disappointed in because, obviously, spoilers, he died like halfway through the movie, but he didn't really do anything. This was a character I was really looking forward to seeing, and he didn't really do anything. Like, he had cool powers and everything, and you had his relationship with Thena, which I loved their relationship, except he kind of got friend zoned. It's like, wow, you're not just going to go in there with the romance, because it was like right there, but no, that didn't happen, and then he just died, and it kind of felt a little pointless. Speaking of characters that died, though, I mean, Ajak, like, this was another character that I felt like nothing for. Like, you got Salma Hayek in the role, which is amazing, but then like she dies before you even really get to know her. So I didn't really feel anything when it comes to her death. And it was kind of weird because like she didn't really do anything else in the movie. And plus, even in the flashbacks when she was like a main character and alive and everything, how like she was just blindly following Arishem and like knew everything that was going on. I wasn't really a big fan of her character anyway. And then finally, I think the last one we have to talk about is Sprite. This is one that I mean, going into it, I heard a lot of hate for this character, so again, wasn't expecting to like her, but I actually, well, for the honestly, most of the movie, I wasn't a big fan of her character, but by the end of it, I actually did, because I like seeing her side of things, of how she just feels out of place, and she just wants to fit in and everything, but she can't because obviously she is in the form of a child. Obviously she's like the same age as these other characters, and she has that, like, she's not an actual child, but she's in the body of a child, and she just wants to experience life, and because of the way she was made, she can't do that. And another thing I saw critiqued was like that it was just weird having that kind of love triangle with her, Circe, and Icarus, and how she had a crush on Icarus. But I don't really see, like, obviously I can see like how that could be considered creepy, but at the same time it's also realistic. I mean, this is something that happens in real life. I've seen it happen in multiple TV shows and different movies and stuff, and it was never really brought up as a problem then, where like, I mean, she's a little girl, she looks up to this guy and finds him attractive and has a crush on him. I don't think it's that weird. I mean, it makes sense. Like it's something that happened, so I don't think it was that weird. And just, I felt like her ending for this movie worked really well, so I don't know if we're going to see her when we see the Eternals pop up again, because she is now not an Eternal and she's a human now, but yeah, I actually really kind of did enjoy her character in this movie. Now, when it comes to the villains, though, again, obviously I already mentioned Icarus. He was a great character. Speaking of him, though, his death, did he die, though? I don't know. I mean, just like, of course, the legend of Icarus, he flew too close to the sun, but we never saw him actually die. Like, maybe he could be alive, but then again, maybe he did die, but then also, like, the whole thing with the Eternals is that Arishem built them, and they're basically kind of robots, so easily, like, Arishem probably has like his memories, or at least his essence and his soul, like, stored somewhere, so he could easily create a new Icarus. That's something I could see happening somewhere down the line in the future. And then we have the Deviants, which was definitely a big disappointment for this movie, where they were basically just a bunch of big CGI characters. And Crow, I mean, you got Bill Skarsgård in the role, but then the character's in like, I don't know, maybe like 3 scenes, and then gets killed off. Like, there wasn't really much going on with his character, and this was a character I was really excited to see, especially with that such a great actor in the role. And then he did nothing. I did think his death was cool with how Athena killed him and like sliced and diced and all that stuff. That was a cool death, but at the same time, it had no real impact. Especially considering that Athena was the one that killed him, because they do have a relationship in the comics where she is actually sleeping with him for a time, but they never do any of that here, so it really didn't have that much of an impact. So yeah, the deviants were definitely really disappointing here, but I did enjoy like everything else going on here with this movie. Like, there were none of these characters in the Eternals that I didn't not like. Like, I liked all these characters, some more than others. It's just that obviously, you know, 10 new characters being introduced in one movie, that's a lot to do in one movie and definitely is hard to do. Now, another big thing that I saw critiqued and a lot of people didn't like was just the jumping back and forth between present day and flashbacks, and I did find that a little weird. It was kind of a little out of place at times, but at the same time I do really like seeing the stories back as when they were first on Earth, and seeing how that connects to their stories present day, because I do think it actually kind of transitions smoothly. It could have been done better, but I didn't have any big problems with that. And of course, let's see, the ending. Yeah, let's talk about the ending. I know I'm kind of all over the place with this, but, you know, I didn't take notes or anything. I'm just doing this freestyle. But the ending here, of course, where we have 3 Eternals. They're going off into space in the Domo. We got Makkari, Druig, of course, that romantic relationship. Really want to see more of them together. And Athena, they're on the Domo. Meanwhile, we have Circe, Phastos, and Kingo, who are then all basically brought up into space by Arishem and say something about, like, you know, I'm going to, I'll spare the humans for now, and now I'm going to judge you on their worthiness and all this stuff. And then they disappear. They get, sucked away, and that is it for them. So I'm really, really hoping that we do get a sequel. I know there's, it's been months and we still had no official confirmation of an Eternals 2. Then again, we went months before Shang-Chi 2 was confirmed, so hopefully we get that with Eternals as well. Especially considering the post-credit scenes here. Like the first one, which of course introduces us to Harry Styles as Eros, the brother of Thanos, Star Fox. There's going to be so much cool stuff going on there with that, of course, with also Pip the Troll, voiced by Patton Oswalt. That was great to see. So the fact that they can help team up with these Eternals on the Domo to actually save Circe, Kingo, and Phastos, I think is something really cool that could easily be explored in the sequel, and that's something I really want to see. You know, Harry Styles as Star Fox is something that was rumored for the longest time, so actually getting to see him in here I think was great. I love the way he looks, his costume and everything, his powers. Pip the Troll, you know, CGI was a little iffy, but I like seeing that the character's here. So yeah, there's a lot of potential here for an Eternal sequel, and I really want to see this because I know a lot of people didn't like this movie, but I did. I know there are people out there that liked it as well, so I am really hoping that we get a sequel because there's a lot set up here, specifically in that post-credit scene, in the huge cliffhanger at the end of this movie for Eternals 2. And of course, we can't go on without mentioning the second post-credit scene, of course, setting up Dane Whitman with the Ebony Blade as Black Knight, which is something I'm excited to see, but of course also with the voice of Mahershala Ali as Blade. So I'm assuming that means that probably the next time we're going to see Dane Whitman pop up is going to be in the Blade movie. That's just what I'm assuming. Maybe he'll pop up earlier than that. I don't know. But I do know that I'm definitely excited to see his future as Black Knight in the MCU. So guys, Eternals, I really enjoyed it. Marvel Studios Eternals, I know it's getting a lot of hate, and if you didn't like it, if you agree with all the terrible things that have been said about this movie, then let me know your thoughts and your side of this in the comments below. If you liked it, let me know as well. But guys, what do you think about Marvel Studios Eternals, and do you want a sequel? Where do you think things could go in the future of this franchise? But anyways guys, thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I keep it up to date on everything goes on in the Marvel life.